Lucas, thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to have you on. Was it last year, or has it been even longer that we got together for this shoot?
It's been going on, it was at the end of May, so it would be almost 2 years now, I think.
Wow, time flies.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do a quick recap. We had a lot of fun, and we learned a lot in the process as well. And I was hoping you could take us through how that shoot came about. You know, there were a lot of companies pulling together, and there was new technology that was coming out. How did it all happen?
Well, actually, I heard about the ProRes RAW coming out just on a post, basically, that somebody had, some tech guru had said, wow, ProRes RAW and the Atomos, and it's going to be with the Nikon series. And I was being a Nikon ambassador, I hadn't even heard about it from them. And the first thing I did was put together a pitch of something I thought would really benefit from ProRes RAW, because being that first mirrorless camera system to have that, I thought, what better way to go out and test it in my own backyard in California on the Central Coast and up and down the coast. I mean, we shot it at non-optimal times of day. We shot it middle of the day. We didn't just go for the beautiful light. We shot, because I really want to see what that would go from like an H.264 codec to basically ProRes RAW and see all of that data that we can encapsulate. We also use the Outex system and went underwater and captured some beautiful footage as well, and some really what would have been pretty trying conditions previously. We also work with the RED system, but that package with the RED and everything, it's like a boat anchor. The thing is massive. Really like the fact that between this Atomos recorder, which is like, basically yay big, a little bit of grip gear, the Z6 or Z7, and a small mirrorless Nikkor lens, and your housing, we could pack all this in a 1510 Pelican case and be up and running and capture lots of footage. And the great thing is with the only thing we were really, I wouldn't say hindered by, but really battery, however long the batteries lasted on the digital recorder, the Atomos, was really the only thing what's there to stop us. So because we had the G-Tech SSD that attaches to the Atomos capture. So I mean, we had 2 terabytes there, so that's a lot of footage. So I mean, we literally could have shot pretty much all day. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and like I said, the idea was to go out and see what this new technology in a small package would do in less than ideal conditions.
Right. So the ideal vision was, because of this ProRes out of the Nikon Z series combined with Apple's software, the ability to record outside, right? So you could outbound send raw video directly to the Atomos recorder out of the camera, so that the processing of the camera was dedicated to image capture only and not doing anything else to maximize the quality of the image. And then the recording was done on the Atomos Ninja V. Is that right?
Correct. The Inferno. Yeah, exactly.
So what was the vision? Because you were trying to showcase the benefits of the technology, the range that it could have, the highest of the highs on the bright, the ability to capture video at low light. So how did the vision come about for what to do as the story for the short film?
Obviously, I live in California. We live in a beautiful state, and I wanted to basically showcase the beautiful landscape that we have out here in California. And I wanted to take it deep into the redwood forests where, it's very dark. And I wanted to see if we could capture everything from that blue sky you see above the trees all the way down to those shadows under the trees, as well as we went out to some sand dunes. And, it's kind of a tricky situation shooting anytime but like the golden hour out there, because the sand dunes are very, very light. I wanted to see if we still had contrast and the ability to capture those high tones. So, and basically, in a sense, testing it, because this wasn't out on the street when we were doing this at this point. So going out and testing to see if we could capture all of those like highlights, but still keep detail, and also capture those shadows on the other end, so that we could really showcase what is director and filmmaker, I always want to capture as much data as possible when it comes to capturing that motion from the lows and shadows and such all the way to the highlights, because the magic in that really comes in the post-production, and having all of that data to be able to use allows us to be able to capture all of that.
Okay. And so I guess the challenge came up when you wanted to go underwater and shoot in sand and dirt, and you didn't quite have, there's no hard case or other housing solution. And I think it was through a mutual friend of ours that, we had been introduced before. And so you gave us a call. We troubleshot through some of the things that you had in mind, because again, when you're combining the Ninja Atomos and the camera, and you have to be able to access the controls, the LCDs, and the functionality of both of them. What were some of your concerns with that, and what was your take on how it worked out?
So my concerns were obviously, how do we get this to work? This is a touchscreen kind of scenario on the Ninja V. We need to be able to stop recording, but we also need to be able to use the buttons on the camera as well. I've purchased custom housings in the past, CNC aluminum. We're talking thousands and thousands of dollars and many, weeks in production to get something absolutely perfect. And we wanted to really jump on this and take this technology to places it hadn't gone before, specifically underwater. And seeing the Outex solution, it was something that was, the flexibility was what really interested me. Not only the fact that you had different sizes of housings so that we could configure the camera in a couple different ways, but also the optical clarity of the ports and such, which you guys offer, was a big concern, because, we're putting this beautiful Nikkor glass inside something. I want to make sure I'm not just slapping plexiglass over the top of it. So that was something that was very interesting to me, or the ability to kind of, customize it in a bunch of different ways. We're going underwater. There's obviously going to be pressure. Where were we going to put this monitor so that we could still see it as well? Because that was the other part of the struggle, was to make sure that really all the functionality was still there, but not going out and spending $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 on a custom CNC housing that may never get used for this exact purpose again, because this is, like I said, this is still all brand new. So this gave us that flexibility. Not only could I have used it for this project, but also I could have thrown it on a D850 with a 70-200 and gone out and shot something else with a different shot underwater stills if I wanted to go that direction. So I really like the flexibility, and that's kind of why we reached out, was because with this system, it's not only compact, and it's also really cost efficient.
Makes sense. And we got lucky that year because we had the super bloom. So California was putting its best face forward to help with the project. And we had some wonderful shots in the dunes in the Central Coast. We had the super bloom going on. And on the other hand, it threw us some curveballs, because when we did go out to Catalina, we were trying to time it right for things like water clarity, the right spot. And we had some issues that day. Do you recall?
Totally. And it's with shooting anything underwater, water clarity is key. And with that super bloom, we also had a ton of rain, kind of coming and going, and rain does not help water clarity. Everything that runs off of the mainland into the ocean impacts the clarity. And we changed locations numerous times trying to find the best clarity. Luckily, some friends of mine who helped us out on the project are kind of experts at, free diving and such. So they really had their finger on the pulse. And it turned out that we got pretty good clarity, but it was definitely not an easy scenario, especially with all the rain that we were getting. It seemed like we would have a window and then all of a sudden some freak storm would come in. And then, timing our small footprint crew as well as our free diver model and everything, or scheduling a boat to go out towards Catalina, it was a lot.
Yeah, and like you put together a top-notch crew. So Kinga was phenomenal and very comfortable in the water, and brought sort of her own set of skills. And then Ricky and some of the others, even the boat captain, everybody was like on top of their game. So it made it easier, I guess, to adapt to the circumstances, and the ability to change the settings on the fly. So as we were trying different locations. Hopefully that helped. Were you pretty pleased with the results?
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful footage. The only thing, we were limited in the locations that we could go based on the water clarity, but the underwater kind of forest with the kelp and everything was absolutely beautiful. And having Kinga is essentially a professional freediver, although she's an amazing television host now. She's gone on to do even more amazing stuff since this. But to have her be comfortable in the water and to be able to go out and do really interesting long breath holds, and have Ricky, who's a very accomplished underwater and above water cinematographer, to have those two on the team and really just go out there and have the gear ready to go. We produced a lot of really beautiful content in a very short amount of time.
Did that feature, because I remember that feature was kind of coming in and out of going live, and Nikon was considering charging for it. So I wasn't sure if the film came out. I'd love you to talk about the short film if it did come out, and kind of where the feature is. I don't know if there's news on that.
Yeah, so the film, we showed it at NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters, at the Nikon booth, as well as the Atomos booth. And it was kind of cool to launch it there. There was probably 1,000 people in the booth,
Yep.
Because they do this big giveaway, and it was crazy to see, the film 30 feet high on beautiful, huge LCD panels. And to really give it its due. Nikon has since posted it on their Learn and Explore channel, which is part of their kind of where they talk about the stories that their ambassadors do, as well as other photographers and filmmakers. Just to talk a little bit about the difference between a ProRes RAW and a MOV or H.264 or H.265 format. Basically, that video is encoded in, basically it's almost like a JPEG. It's kind of crunched down to save space, where the ProRes RAW is basically recording all of those ones and zeros in their glory, so you have things aren't thrown away to conserve space. It's a little bit bigger footprint as far as the storage that it takes.
Sure.
But it also allows you the flexibility to just honestly get better results.